March 10th, 2022, and it is 5:04. Thank you. Can I get a roll call, please, Mrs. Martinez?
Absolutely. President Seda.
Here.
Trustee Moss is not up here. Trustee Ferrucci. Here. Trustee Maselli.
Here.
And Trustee Grubbs.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're in open session, and this meeting is recorded for live streaming and archiving on the district YouTube channel. Can I get an approval of the agenda, please? Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
President Seda.
Yes.
Trustee Ferrucci.
Here.
Trustee Maselli.
Yes.
And Trustee Grubbs.
Yes.
Thank
If you'd please join me in the pledge. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. Do we have any comments from members of the public? There are no public comments. Okay, thank you. I still should read. BUSD has moved to in-person board meetings. We ask that members of the public who wish to attend, including those who wish to address the board, wear a mask over their nose and mouth at all times. All functions of the board meeting, including public comments, will take place in person. Members of the public may address the board at a regular meeting on any item within the board's jurisdiction. Speaker cards are available on the entrance table. Please note the item you wish to speak to and submit a card to the board secretary. The board president will call all the open session general comments during the public comment item. Comments for items on the agenda will be called during a specific item. Comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes per speaker, or the board may limit total time to 20 minutes per item, with the timer displayed on the monitors. By law, no action may be taken on any item raised during public comment periods, and matters may be referred to staff for placement on a future agenda of the governing board. Please be reminded to keep your comments respectful, as students may be watching the board meeting. Thank you. Okay, our next item is Dr. Young, if you would please. Or I guess I'd do this. I do. Hey, okay. I'm doing this. I saw superintendent and I immediately went to you. Okay, so we have Dr. Cavazos and we have Dr. Oh, well, you were there for a minute. So, okay, Mr. Garza, thank you for being here this evening. I'm gonna let you guys go from here because we are anxious to get started. So, please.
I will start again then. If I could. Oh, almost. I'm shorter. My name is Blanca Cavazos, and this is Mr. Juan Garza, and we are very, very happy to be back with you and to have the opportunity to work with you, the board, with your staff, with your parents, with your students, with your community. And we're going to discuss the process and how we go about it. We're going to today be reviewing the timeline and setting the timeline. And we're going to also be asking you about the stakeholders that you want to make sure that we reach out to. So we'll start that process, and I'm going to turn it over to Juan. We're going to go back and forth.
And one other person is very excited that we're back here, and that's my wife. She said she wants to come over here. She's seen pictures and videos, and she said, and I reminded her that this is work, and she said, well, I'll just drop you off. There you go. So you have 3 documents before you. One of them is the discussion item sheet that looks like this. Okay. One of them is a sample list of stakeholders that we can work off of. And one of them is a draft timeline. These are the documents we'll be working with this evening. I just wanted to make sure all of you had access to them. So we'll begin with some logistical things. About half of this meeting will involve logistics in terms of making sure we're all on the same page with dates and processes and procedures and how we communicate and how everything works out. So we go right to item number 2. Designate who the board's liaison is and the spokesperson for the board. There'll be various correspondences that we'll be sharing with you. For example, when the application deadline comes up, we will email all of you the deadline closed, and these are the number of candidates that applied. 5 are this, 3 are assistant superintendents, or the categories that they're in. So we'll keep you informed as a group. We'll also, when we finish going through the stakeholder input process, we'll be sharing with you an executive summary of what you shared combined with all of the stakeholders. And you'll get an executive summary of everything. Everybody gets that. But there'll be occasions where either Blanca or I will need to contact someone other than Georgina for authorization for something or to answer a confidential question or something of that nature. So we would like to have you designate who we would contact. Typically, it's the board president. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so we'll be in communication a lot with Georgina, but there'll be occasions where we'll need to get an answer to something.
Yeah.
That's what. Okay, so you're jumping to item number 4, which is okay. If Georgina can provide us with the email and phone numbers for all of the board members, we'd appreciate that. And you will be the designee. And Georgina, just to clarify, you've received everything already in advance of the meeting from our administrative assistants? All
Yes,
the
I have a
documents?
complete Google folder that you provided me, and I was telling them that I have the layout for the web page already laid out, just waiting for the timeline, and we're ready to go.
Okay, so there'll be constant communication between Georgina and our administrative assistant to facilitate that process. So those are 3 quick items that I wanted to work on the logistics. I'll let Blanca take over the next portion.
So in the next portion, if you will take a look at the document that says, and I can talk loud, but I will turn this way for those that are attending remotely. If you look at the document that says community sessions, examples of groups to invite, these are just examples, and if we can go through each one and you can tell us yay, nay, and in some cases you may want to be specific, and there may be others that are not on this list that you want us to add, and we can do that. So if we can just go one right after the other, we're already meeting with you.
Sure.
The second one is to meet with Dr. Young. And is that a yes from the group?
Yes.
Okay. The cabinet.
Yep.
Dr.
Yes.
Young's cabinet?
Yes.
Okay. Leadership team and
All our principals and such.
we have principals separately.
Oh, sorry.
Under leadership team, that can include some individuals that may be directors, they may be coordinators, they may not be listed here elsewhere.
Oh, so they wouldn't be cabinet members, and there are the other at,
Okay,
yes, okay.
that's fine.
Okay, and then principals,
Mhm.
Yes,
assistant principals.
yes.
Yep.
And then classified district office staff,
Mhm.
confidential employees.
Yep.
Yes.
That's the secretary for confidential information. Right. Yeah. Regina, Kathleen, Lynn, Hiles. Right.
Typically for your
Mhm.
confidential employees or employees that deal with negotiations, or their supervisors deal with negotiations, confidential information, so that's typically that category.
Classified staff,
Absolutely.
certificated staff.
Yes.
And then separately, the Teachers Association Executive Board,
Mm-hmm.
and then CSEA Executive Board.
Yep.
Okay. Do you have any other bargaining units? Okay. Students or student board representatives?
Sure.
Great. School site council representatives?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Parent committee
Yes.
leaders or representatives?
Yep.
And then we'll work with Georgina on who those committees are. Service club representatives, if you have Rotary or Kiwanis
Yep.
or whoever that
Yes.
you work closely with.
Rotary.
Okay, great. Anyone else?
Lions, there.
Kiwanis also? Okay.
What about Lions?
We should include all of those.
Even if we're not currently
all the
involved.
service
Mhm.
groups.
Right.
Benicia.
They should have a say.
Yes, because these are stakeholders and we want
Right.
them to have a stake in the success of the superintendent, really.
Right.
Right.
And DLAC and ELAC,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
city council members or city staff or police chiefs.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the
There's only
mayor.
one police chief.
Okay, mayor, also, I'm gonna put my hand down. Chamber of Commerce. We work
Yes.
Closely with them. Okay, and then any other parent groups, there's listed here, and you may already have them in another category. Do you have any other parent groups?
Now, each of the sites has a PTA. That's not necessarily,
Okay.
well, they've got all different kinds of,
Oh,
the Ed Foundation, is that
Okay.
functioning, Sherry? You're,
Yeah, number
it's
22,
it's
we'll
on
catch them
pause.
there.
not together anymore, okay.
Okay. Number 21, the booster groups. Do you have any booster groups?
Yes, we do for sports, and we have for music
Mhm.
and drama and
Okay. Great. And
probably
then
cheer and
You
stuff.
already said Ed Foundation.
It's not,
We can leave that out for the
Okay.
time being because they're just not currently running.
Okay,
So
okay. And any business partners that you have that you want us to reach out to?
Valero is
Mhm.
our biggest employee
Yes.
or employer of the district. So I would guess them.
well, they fund excessively for.
Yes, they do.
Is
What
there
else
any
do you
other?
think? I mean, what about any of the smaller groups that do work for us that
Oh, you
I
know,
mean,
what
like-
about our mentors?
mentors?
Our mentor group. They function at Liberty, Benicia High, and Benicia Middle, correct?
Yes.
So I
I
think
have-
that's primarily from church, is that right? Is that the Northgate Church?
I'm involved.
Okay, so it's
and
not just the
not.
church.
Mm-mm.
Okay, but the mentors, I think, is important too.
Okay. And how about superintendents of neighboring or districts?
What do you think on that?
It really depends on, it's, yes. It depends on, especially for like high school districts, they have feeder districts. that-
So
Yeah, I don't know
into
what the,
them.
what would be the, I'm sorry.
What's their purpose?
What's the purpose of meeting with somebody that's in another county or that's in a district, the closest district would be Vallejo?
So it may not work for you. This may be, no.
Charles, how close do you work with the neighboring cities?
We meet, you know, we get to know one another over the years, and we meet once a month for the SELPA, which is the special ed group, and that's primarily our relationship.
Would you consider this to be a good idea to have them come in, or you don't mind my asking?
No, I think.
Not really. I mean, I have great respect for that. I just don't see the relevance.
That's
in my
irrelevant.
opinion.
Me too, I just
Yeah.
was curious.
Yeah.
about
No,
it.
that's.
Okay,
that's
so
perfectly
let's-
okay. fits for some districts, it doesn't for others.
Let's
We don't have
not,
a feeder district, we're K-12, so that's,
Any other groups that are not listed on here that you would like to see us reach out to?
I just want to make sure under city council members that we include the mayor. He is a city council member, but
Yes.
he's the mayor, so, let's see.
that sounds like it's a pretty extensive.
It does.
If you come up, if you go home and you think of someone else, just let us know and we can certainly add them.
Oh, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Under certificated staff, I don't remember what we did the last time. Cece, you were on the site. You might remember. Did we actually do school site? Did we connect to the school site? Did we do that when we did the search for Charles? You remember it all?
Either one.
What year was that, Charles? What was your?
2015.
Right, 2014. Or how do you do that? Maybe that's what I should ask.
I don't, you know what, I don't remember, but I do believe that there were opportunities for staff, all staff,
Mhm.
to, was there a panel? You know what, let me just say, I don't remember. I don't
Okay,
know.
I know there were opportunities, and I don't remember what it looked like. I just remember being on getting the feedback end of it. So I guess maybe the question goes more to you. What does that look like?
Yes, let me share with you what that
Okay.
looks like. That's what we were discussing, is I need
Okay.
to share with you what that looks like. So what we will do is we will work with Georgina and we'll set up times that we will be available online. So they just need to log into their
Okay, so you're gonna do it
computer
online.
and connect. If it's on Zoom that you use, then we'll connect via Zoom. And we'll ask them the exact same questions that we are asking you. And then everyone will also have access to an online survey that we will discuss also tonight. And they can just log in and respond to the questions there. So there's ample opportunity for anyone to give input. And I say anyone in the community. We'll also work with Georgina so that the link is on your website, and we'll talk about ways that we can also get that information out so that people know that they can go to the website and find the link.
Well, all of these community sessions, they will all be virtual. Is that correct?
Unless.
Whatever you want. You can come and, like, say, let's take to the teachers as an example. If you would like us to come in person, we can do that also. Okay? We can come in
Okay.
person. We'd work with Georgina for the school most centrally located, and say to the teachers an open invitation, 3:30 after working hours, after teaching day. They can come in person and provide input, or the groups also. We can come for a day or two in person, or we can do it all virtual, whatever
Thank
your
you. I appreciate that flexibility. Thank you.
With
Yeah.
your experience, what have you found to be so work well in that area? Is it better to offer, because I'm just thinking about teachers and how busy they are, and do they want to stick around school another hour or two, whatever it is? Do you find it's more beneficial to them to be able to do things like this over Zoom? Is it easier to gain more input that way?
It really is, because of just simply access. We know they all have computers, and I'm talking about teachers, for example. They all have computers, they have access to Zoom. Much of the community does as well. If you have a group that does not have access, that might be something that we can talk about and think about them differently, about how do we give them access.
Okay.
But there's a lot of things that are not good about online, or that I should say that we don't like about online in general in education. This has been, I think, a real plus, because it has allowed people to participate and have access if they're not able to physically get somewhere, or if they might be at work and they can take a break and participate.
So we can have it set up to do both simultaneously? Or like, can you have a meeting at a school site and then have those that wish to participate in person, and those that wish to participate via Zoom? Is that a possibility?
Not at, typically at the same time, it's not a
Okay.
good practice because it becomes confusing who you
Oh,
answer questions
okay.
to.
It's very difficult to do that.
Okay,
But if you provide times for meetings during the day,
okay,
and then 2 times in the evening for those that would prefer to do it in the
Okay.
evening via Zoom, that's an option. You know, a full day here in person, and then open up 2 in the evening for Zoom, and those that are.
okay. That's
something like
Appreciate
that.
that flexibility, really, thank you.
Mhm,
So
there's-
the only thing I'm going to raise to everyone's attention, I don't know if anybody's read the document from Kushat. Apparently, that's going to also be a concern, is gathering large numbers of people together. Because like, we're going to do open house virtually, correct? Because they don't want to gather with a lot of people. So I think, so can you, yeah.
What we have said is if like a staff, if a school wants to have a staff meeting, and we can't imagine having like 200 people sitting in a room, but if there are 15, 20 people sitting and having a conversation, that's okay. We have talked to with our fellow employees and everybody also regarding that, and everybody feels comfortable that meetings can be held in person or virtually as needed.
Okay.
It's also less intimidating, quite frankly, to sit in front of your computer and participate than it is to stand up in a room in front of everyone. It
right.
just is less intimidating, and easy. It's just easier, really, for people to participate.
We have had some quality input through the Zoom process, so whatever your preference is, but you need to let us know tonight so that we can begin the process for the invitations and setting up the dates and all of that.
So once we gather the information from you and from the stakeholders that you've identified, the folks that respond to the online survey, and the survey is in various languages. We'll also ask you what languages you would like that to be in, and so outside of English, is there another language or languages that you?
Well, I
Yep,
have Spanish,
Spanish.
absolutely.
Both Spanish and English from Serena. So we're good on.
Excellent,
Are
excellent.
there any other languages that should be included?
Diversity is different, yeah.
So
Good
what we
question.
do, once we gather that, all that data, if you will, then, as Juan mentioned earlier, we put that together in an executive summary. So we take all of that, summarize it for you, and then we begin working on, take that data, that information, and we draft a job description, which we then review with you, and you help us to finalize that. What we will need for that position description is a narrative of the community. So this is something that, for example, HR, I'm sure, has a description of the district, of the community that you use for recruitment. If we can have that, if that's what you would like to use, then we can put that also in the description of the community of the district. And then before we actually post the position description on the website, we'll make sure that you have reviewed it and approved it, and taken action on that.
Okay.
Our online survey dates are
March, what we have tentatively set up for is March 14th through the 31st. If those dates are okay with you.
gonna pull my calendar up. Georgina, can you check, can you check yours as well to see? Yeah, so you want to know when you're gonna get, together with stakeholders, either online or in person?
No, this is, we're still talking about the online survey.
Oh, opening the survey, my
Yes, yes,
apologies.
the online survey.
That should be fine.
Okay, good. You ready to get into the calendar? All right, if we'll go to the calendar, that's next on our list. This is a draft. We're gonna go date by date, and we will ask that this be finalized this evening so that you can post it on your website, and we can post it on our website, and we can make sure that we commit to those dates.
Okay.
Okay, so the first is we've already solidified the online survey for March 14th through the 31st. And then what is your decision with regard to community input? Are you interested in in-person or virtual or a combination?
Yeah, I think a combination.
Yeah, I'd like the combination if that's.
So people can be there in person, but we have to limit the amount of people and some Zoom.
Okay,
Is that,
and are there any preferable dates for us? Wednesdays, Thursdays are good for people, usually not Mondays or Tuesdays or Fridays.
What are the days that they like meet more
Wednesday's good
often?
for you, Wednesday, Thursday?
Teachers and, yeah, staff.
Mhm.
Well, Mondays are staff meetings at the schools,
Okay,
correct?
so that's probably not a good
And
idea.
then Wednesdays are, cabinet, or.
minimum day?
Yes, that. And surveys are awfully easy to just take whenever, so those dates seem to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, we'll work on Wednesday, Thursday. One of the 2 days you and I will decide. All right. For advertising, we would like to advertise on March 21st and 28th with the closing date deadline for applications on April 4th.
That's quick, huh?
Yeah.
That's really quick. You're gonna be able to get all that done and put together by then? And
We-
From the 21st to the 28th, and
Mhm.
then the deadline is
The
April
4th?
4th.
Right.
That's 3 weeks.
So
And are you only advertising in one? Is that EdCal?
in EdCal and
Are you advertising anyplace else?
go ahead.
One of the things that will happen, and actually as soon as we're done tomorrow, we will actually send out an email blast to over 900 of our of administrators that have signed up on our website that want to receive information about postings. So that will happen immediately. And that will be on our website for anybody to see. And if anybody's looking, and I'm sure Dr. Young can confirm this, if anyone's looking, they're looking in EdCal every single time that it is published.
Right.
It's just something that we do, whether we're looking or not looking, we look. But it will also be out there, even before we do the job description, we do that just so that people are aware that this is coming. And then once we have the job description, we actually will upload that as well.
Okay,
EdCal
were you,
is what we have found over the last 5 years that I've been involved with Leadership Associates as an example, is advertising through EdCal. We get applicants from across the United States.
I was gonna just ask
Yes,
that question.
people from Florida, Texas, New York, all over. EdCal is very well recognized across the country for job opportunities in California.
Did you have another suggestions, Mrs. Grubbs?
I was just surprised it was only one.
Are there more than one location that you can put the advertisement in?
What we have found is there's a nationwide advertising firm that's out there, and what we have found is that when we advertise there and at EdCal, we get the same results. So if you have a desire to advertise in nationwide, we can do that too. That would,
What are your thoughts, guys?
EdCal's it's big. I mean, it is where admin go to look for jobs. I mean, that is the job line. So,
Is everybody comfortable with that?
yeah, no, I'm fine
So
with
you
it.
got your answer. We're good.
okay. So are we comfortable with those dates and that deadline date?
Yes.
That's fast,
Alright.
but yeah.
Well, we want to try to have someone in place for you by the date that we specified here, so there could be a little bit of transition time, introduction. So then the next date to look at is April 20th. If you check your calendars, that would be a special board meeting, closed session only, approximately 2 to 3 hours. What we would do at that meeting is we would already have done the reference checking on all of the candidates. We would bring every candidate to you and their work experience, the complete packet with letters of recommendation, the application. We would also give you access to that information via a portal so that you could see it a couple of days in advance, so you're not rushed into looking at it in a binder all that evening. You'd have some time
That
to
would be
look at it.
great.
That's good, yeah.
Okay, so you would have an opportunity to do that. We would go through every single candidate with you. Every single candidate.
Well, that's on April 20th, correct?
Yes.
Is anybody, that's the week after Easter, is anybody planning on being out of town?
No.
Oh, is that,
Easter's
break?
the 17th. It is spring break week, but that doesn't mean anything for us, you know, just making sure nobody was heading out of town. for
I think
Easter.
our spring break is the week before, right?
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
I guess for our district, it's week after.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, yeah.
All right, no, I'm good. Yeah, I just.
We're all
was
good?
curious if anybody
Okay.
Well, so is that, are you off that week?
I'm off that week, yeah.
So can
I
we
go
come
early.
earlier? Would you guys be opposed to starting earlier? During the day?
Sure,
And
that'd be better.
so how about 1?
Works
Can
for
you
me.
do that?
Are you guys available at 1 o'clock?
My
that
wife would love that.
day? Yes, yes, okay. So 1 p.m.
So April 20th at 1?
Yeah,
Okay.
1 to 3.
Go get my phone. I don't have it.
Okay. Fantastic.
Is it 1 to 3 or 1 to 4? Because it says
Oh,
approximately.
yeah.
He's saying 3 hours, so I
Yeah.
would say 1 to
4.
4.
Yeah.
Okay.
1 to 4.
Block out 3 hours. We might finish sooner.
Okay.
So to finish explaining the process, I want to make sure we answer all your questions if you have any along the way. We'd go through every candidate, the reference information. You would have access to the applications and resumes and reference letters in advance. After we go through every candidate, we typically recommend to you 4 to 6 candidates. And we tell you why we recommend those above the others. Typically, we try to find candidates based on their experience, the reference checking, that best match your position description. That evening, you can agree with it, or you can completely pick whoever you want. But we feel it's our responsibility to at least try to recommend to you the candidates that, in our opinion, based on what we have found, best match your position description. But you have the final say.
So there's going to be more applicants that we'll have in our hands several days before.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Okay, and then
You'll have
we'll
all-
have all, and then you're going to, out of those all, you're going to say, these are our 4 to 6 that okay.
We put them in tiers based on, typically we put them in 3 tiers. The top tier best matches your position description, tier 1. Tier 2 is close. And if you're interested, they're worth interviewing. And tier 3 do not match at all. Sometimes people apply that have no business applying. And we'll
Okay.
explain to you why as we go through.
Thank you for that.
So March 20th at 1, and then
I'm sorry, April 20th.
April
April,
20th.
yes. Sorry.
We could not do it on March
Thank you.
That would be a real quick turnaround.
And then on May 7th, what is the date that we're suggesting for interviews? It would be a special board meeting. It would be all day.
That's on a weekend? Oh, May 7th, wait. May 7th. It is a weekend, okay.
It could be a Friday or it could be a Saturday.
For all day, yeah. Are you guys good with the 7th? We're good. Well, it'll be all day, so do you
Okay.
think 10 to 5? Is that reasonable, or do you need more hours?
What I would recommend is that you block out 7:30 to 6, and depending on how many candidates you want to interview, we can adjust that time
Okay,
when we go through the candidates. If you decide to interview 7, we're going to have to start at our first candidate at 8 in the morning with orientation at 7:30. If you decide to only interview 4, we can start a little later.
okay.
And we'll explain the interview process. Are you ready to have the interview process explained right now?
Sure,
Okay.
yeah.
Typically, we recommend a venue. If it's a Saturday, this place is fine. It could be somewhere else if it's a Friday. Yeah, we don't want people to cross with employees and because it's
Mhm.
confidential, but if it's here, are you comfortable with it being here?
Yep.
The one thing that we will need to think about is having lunch brought in, and that's one of the other reasons that sometimes districts hold it off-site, because then someone can just bring it right where the meeting is being held. So if
Yeah,
there's,
we've had delivery here and we can maneuver that.
We'll have access to the
We need food
building?
that day.
Yes, okay. And that would be that's not even an open session at that point, that's just a
It's
closed.
all closed session all day.
Okay. How many candidates do we normally interview? What is your norm for this size of a district?
5, 4 or
5?
5, 4 or 5.
Thank you.
Pardon?
No, I thought we were gonna go through the interview.
So let me just walk you through the interview day, what
Sure.
it would look like. Let's say we were going to start with the first candidate at 8 in the morning. We would have an orientation for you at 7:30, just to make sure we're all on the same page, review the materials with you, the questions. We would cover the draft questions and everything during the candidate selection meeting, the meeting prior. So we'd review all of the materials that we would go through, agree on who's asking what questions. Both Blanca and I would be here. We would make sure that the candidates don't cross paths. We'd walk them in one door, walk the other one out the other door. We'll be here through the whole day. We will not participate in the interview process other than sit in the back, and halfway through the interview time, we'll alert the candidate if they're going too slow or too fast, just slow down or speed up.
Okay.
And then after they go through the first round of interviews, you'll have a question template, for each candidate, where you can rank them and where you can make comments. Notes to yourself in case they come back as finalists. You can have something to refer to. When we finish interviewing all of the candidates, we go through a ranking process that's anonymous on your part, where you rank the candidates. Let's say there's 5, you'll rank them 1 through 5.
Okay.
We'll collect the ballots, and then we'll put them up on a chart paper, show their ranking without showing who ranked them. So you're not identified. And usually the top 1 or 2 will stick out with the numbers. Then we'll discuss them. Sometimes we may re-rank depending on the discussion. And you can determine whether you want to bring back 2 candidates as finalists or 3. We would then bring back 2 or 3 candidates. The second round of interviews is unstructured. You get to go in depth in the area that you're most interested in based on the notes that you have on that particular candidate.
When does that take place?
that same day.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why we're blocking off all that time.
Oh.
That same day.
Wow.
Yep, that same day. And when you finish, let's say you bring back, typically 2 people are brought back. When you finish those 2, we go through that same ballot process where you rank 1 and 2.
Uh,
We put it up there. We have the discussion. Sometimes it's evident who the number 1 is. After that discussion, you may decide this is our finalist. Then we bring that person back. Again, it's still
the
the same
third
day.
time.
The third time
On the same day.
on the same day. But
We love you.
And you're gonna feed them.
yeah, depending if there's 5 candidates, we should be. If we start like at 8:30, we should be. I'm saying about 3 o'clock. Be at this point with the finalists.
Oh, you know, the only thing and really, I'm new to this, never done it before, you know, I've always been on the other side, so it seems if we're going from 5 to number 1 in one day in a span of, it looks like probably 12 hours, right?
8 hours, 8 to 10 hours.
Yeah, it seems like that's so fast, and that for the candidates that we're interested in, I, for one, am somebody who goes and does some research before I make up my mind. It doesn't sound like there's much time for that, and I'm a little curious.
Okay.
Is there a possibility to do it on another, like the day after? That
I
fine,
don't
those,
wanna do that to them.
You're asking people to stick around.
Oh,
so there's
yeah.
something
I'm
for
sorry.
attendance,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
it's not-
okay.
Well, and I think the research you're talking about, they wouldn't be going this far and submitting if they hadn't decided they wanted this job.
Oh,
That's gonna surface for us real quickly.
and I do understand that, Diane. I really do. I just like to take care of those things myself as well, and do some deep dive and deep digging.
And you will have access to that portal, so, you know, you'll be able to look at the candidates ahead of time, but
So when you pick your candidates, do you go out and talk to their current staff, their current school district, the schools in their district, to just get a sense of the reality versus the I'm applying for a job?
Okay, most of these candidates will have worked in 1 or 2 other places also. So let's say, I'm just gonna say there's a candidate with the last name of common name Smith. And Smith has applied, and let's say he's a viable candidate. We'll not only research within the school district that they're currently serving, but we'll go to the 1 or 2 before also and find out, do some research back there to look for patterns. Okay, so we go all the way back. We contact community members, sometimes teachers, union leaders.
And then you will let us know what the results of those, that communication was. Would that be a face-to-face conversation, phone
Yes,
conversation?
during that meeting, when we present the candidates to you,
No, when you go and talk to their former staff and their present staff.
okay, we bring that information to the candidate selection meeting.
On April 20th.
Yes, so
I think your question is, do we go personally and do that? If we're getting 30 candidates, that's not physically possible for us. So, no, we are on the phone with everybody and their brother, frankly. You know, people that they have listed on, and on the application. On the application, it requests 3 letters of recommendation and 5 different references. So that's 8 people on each applicant that they have on there. We contact each one of those individuals
We contact the candidate themselves. We have a conversation with them. So we get to know them a little bit and where they're coming from. And we ask some of the questions that might have popped up for us on their application that maybe was not clear. There's a box on the application that says you may contact others not listed. And so that's where, with Leadership Associates, we have such a network and we all belong to different organizations. We also do professional development. We do leadership training. So we have a lot of connections. And it is typical for us to call someone in a district that we know and say, what do you know about Charles Young? I'm just throwing your name out since you're not going to be doing this. But what do you know about him? What can you tell me about them? And so we start looking at other people, other sources of information beyond that, so that we can give you as accurate of a picture as possible of this candidate.
Don't forgive me, but.
No, please, this is why we're here.
But we do know that when someone is looking for a job, right, when they want to make a change, they put their out, if they know what they're doing, they're going to look and see what we're looking for, what is important to us, and they're going to promote that part of themselves.
Right.
Right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that you are getting what you thought you were getting.
Correct.
So do you see where my concern comes in?
Yes, and that's where what Blanca was sharing comes in very beneficial. Like, let's say, for example, the one of the candidates is from Modesto. Okay, I know people in Modesto personally that I can contact at the county office and at one of the districts to tell me about that candidate. If the candidate is from the San Jose area, Eric Andrew, one of our partners, lives in Campbell and was a superintendent there and was a superintendent in a couple of districts around there. He has a vast network, so I would contact Eric and say, who can I talk to about Mr. Smith who's applying over here? He could give me names of people that I could confidentially talk to. So we dig beyond just what they put on that paper. We'd want to talk to the union leaders where they have worked to see what they have
And I
to
do
say.
think that would be important to reach out to the union leaders, but also to other staff, to classified staff, to
Parent, booster. So we try to reach out as
Okay.
much as we can.
but yeah, okay. So you've heard my concern, and I appreciate
But
your.
these are people that they wouldn't have contacted because they don't even know that we're calling them. They know the 8 because they listed them. But these are beyond that 8 that are listed there. So they don't even know if we're going to call, say, the CTA president 2 districts before that they worked at. They don't know that. And so that's where we try to get information. And as Juan said, try to see if there's a pattern that we note based on what people are telling us that they've observed in their capacity. But I also want to take the opportunity to just share with you, you were concerned about doing the interviews all in one day. I went through that process with Leadership Associates. My appointment was at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I finished my second interview at 4 p.m.
You
And
must have been exhausted.
but I got to hang out. I mean, after my initial interview, I went and had lunch. I went to the local library.
Go with his wife.
I went to the local library. I hung out until they called me and let me know that I was scheduled to come back for the second interview.
That could actually be a positive
Mhm.
in a way for the folks to visit our community and
Right.
Go to the grocery store, go to restaurants, go walking down First Street, check out the schools, go drive around. Yeah, it could be a
Yeah,
positive.
and many of them will do that before they even interview. They will have driven through, they will have checked out the schools, they'll be talking to people on, at a restaurant, for
Mhm.
example. So I just wanted to share with you, that was my experience where I was the first one to go and I was the last one to go. I was very happy, obviously, that I was the last one, but I spent hours going to a restaurant. I went and had a leisurely lunch and then I hung out I did drive through the community, although I was familiar with the community. I drove through the community. I sat at the library and waited for that call, frankly.
Thank you.
In my experience, most of the candidates that I've talked to, they're very pleased when it's a one-day process versus having to come back a second day or a
Mhm.
following
That
week.
makes
Right.
sense.
Okay.
It's not
And it's,
hanging over their head.
and
It
it's,
must be exhausting.
and it's usually fresh on your mind between candidates and
Right.
there's a lapse of time. So after, when you bring back the finalist, if we get there, which we should be able to get there in one day, let's say you select 5 people to interview, and we've gone through the interview process, round 1 and round 2, and you're with your finalists. The 5 people that you selected to interview fill out a contract parameters worksheet, and there's about 8 or 10 key items on there. I'm going to be asking for I would like a 3 or 4 year term. Here's the salary range that I would like. Here's what I would like in health and welfare benefits. Here's what I would like for cell phone and technology. Here's what I would like for whatever travel allowance, all of those key things. So we would have that for the candidate. And we'll be asking you later for a contract of your current superintendent, and we'll be discussing with you your salary range. Because we want to make sure that you don't interview someone that's asking for this if you're only going to,
When it's way
Right.
outside of.
yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
So we take care of that in advance. So let's say you bring back the finalists, we have the salary range. We have their contract parameters worksheet. We'll go through it together with you, and you'll say, okay, we're willing to pay this amount. We're willing to give this. We're willing to give this. Then you bring them back in, and either your board president or one of us could present the document and talk through it. And if you agree to those key terms, you make an unofficial offer. Unofficial.
That day.
We'd like to recommend you as a finalist pending a validation visit, if that's what you're interested in doing. So you could get to that point that evening. Usually that happens.
That would be May 7th.
Yes.
That's the all-day day.
It's an all-day thing. That's next.
Well, no, we
Okay.
have
Not
to,
super- not me,
we have to look professional.
not me.
We gotta look professional from the waist up.
Are there any questions?
Sorry.
Are there any questions on that interview date, the process?
No.
Where we
Makes
want to
sense.
wind up?
Makes sense.
Okay, we're all clear?
It's gonna be a marathon.
All good.
Cece, and you're comfortable with a full day? We
I
need to-
am, yes.
Okay, I
Yes.
want to make sure.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Okay, so then the next is the May 7th on that date. It's the validation visit. And the validation process has worked 2 ways, okay? One is going to the candidate's school district. Let's say, for example, I'm going to stick to Modesto or Merced, whatever example I use, Modesto. And the candidate is from Modesto. By then, you'll have unofficially made an offer, and the person is your finalist. We will have given Georgina some press releases that she would work with you, Sherry, on some statements, some pictures, all of that stuff that you would use for your news media, for your website, all of those things. And on this proposed date that we have here is May 7th. Excuse me. May 26th. The glasses help.
Oh,
Earlier it was
put 'em on
March
too.
instead of April, so the glasses
got
do
'em
help.
on.
So on that date, one of the processes, you could go, one or all of you could go to Modesto. If all of you go or more than 3, you need to schedule it as a board meeting, and you pound the gavel and do all of the things that you do before you get in your vehicle to go over there. And when you get there, there'll be an array of people that will be set up for you. Some board members to talk to, some cabinet members, some principals, some teachers, some community members. So it would be like 25 to 30 minutes with different groups all day for a morning, say about 4 hours. That type of validation visit, so you can do that. The other validation visit that's becoming very popular, used quite often, is bring the candidate here and have groups of people, not yourselves, because you'll already have interviewed them, but say you could have your cabinet, your confidential group, some teachers, some principals, some parents, some community members that you would like to have present. You could line them up in half-hour sessions the same way, and the candidate would be introduced, give a background on themselves, then just answer questions, casual conversations. That also has worked, and it also serves as a kind of like a transition, so that when the candidate, if everything gets approved, he's already, and they have friendly faces that they know already. So that could be determined later on, but that's something for you to think about. Going, coming, or not at all.
Okay, so it's one or the other. It's not a both.
Could be both.
Okay.
Yep, think about that. And then tentatively approval, formal action on May 26th at that board meeting.
So can I ask Charles a question right now? When you went through your process a gazillion years ago, what part really was effective for you, or what part wasn't?
They used a different process, where I remember, let me see, I had a community interview. I had an interview with a large group. It was a stakeholder group. I remember that. I remember Mr. Rainbow being there. So I remember that process, and it was fine. And then I remember the last thing I did was I interviewed with the board. And then they did something different. Leadership doesn't do it. It's a different process. We've been using it for years. But we went out to eat with trustees. And, I think it all worked fine. It's just a little different process.
So is there something that we did that you wish we hadn't, or is there something that you would have liked us to have done to give you a better feel or better exposure?
That's a great question. I don't know. I think at that point you just sort of feel like, it is what it is, and that's the process, and you just, do your best to, present yourself as best you can to the board so they can really get to know you and who you are. So I think looking back on it, I think overall I think it was fine.
Okay.
And to your question, so that's a great question too, right? So, how do you really know who these folks are? And I think that, it's a big part of leadership's role is doing all that background check and an opportunity for you to really get to know them, at least on paper. And then the interview process, boy, now that you ask me that, when you go through it, yes, a lot of really in-depth questions. And you'll have lots of time to really listen and have follow-up questions. And when they're here, you'll get a really strong sense of them. Even though it's a long day, I don't think you'll feel rushed. You'll really get a strong sense of them. So my process was fine.
Okay. No, I was just going to share with the team. It actually was a very engaging day. I felt like I really enjoyed the process, but I like meeting people. We're people. So it actually, it was a really good process to go through and to try to find that match for what we thought was best for Benicia. But I was always curious, like if you could change something about it, what would you change? Because I wasn't the one in the hot seats all day long. So
that the lunches or the dinners were on the same day as
yeah,
the process?
No, I think they were spread out. I mean,
yeah, they were like that week, but I think they were just a couple of days before. He met real quickly because he met with, I remember I was with Gary, so we had breakfast with Charles, and then he was having lunch with another team, and we were having it flip. So within 2 days, I think we had breakfast and lunches with everybody.
One of the things
Yeah,
that's right. One of the things, just an obvious point, these are people that are, anxious and very honored to be here if they make it to the interview process. And you know, being gracious and making them, of course you would, but, you know, making them feel welcome because they're nervous. They want to be the best that they can be, and just, you know, eye contact and warmth. So when they feel comfortable, you're going to really, you don't have to overcome as much nervousness for you to really see who they are. So that would just be a thought.
So one of the things when we were interviewing Charles is the feedback we had gotten from our groups within our own district was liking having that day to be also meeting the candidates. So, you know, I guess that would be that one person before, that one day before we actually announced that. I don't know, I mean, I like that. I like them actually having, him having a face, her having a face.
Absolutely.
You know, I like that piece of it. And
Yeah.
maybe we could just do a validation with do a team and not everybody, so that it's not, we do a combination of both, I guess is where I'm going. I'm babbling, but that's,
You could make it as big as you want, that validation to get him in front of people,
mhm.
get him or her in front of people.
Yeah, I think that's more important. That's just my thought.
For me, I would want to go to their district. That's what would be important to me.
Mhm.
So maybe we can split up.
That's
that
what I'm
way.
saying. Maybe we
Yeah.
could do a,
Because I like to hear the authentic, get some authentic feedback that's not, you know.
Could be both.
So you would have, from May 7th, you know, once that decision is made, up until the 26th in
Right.
order to
do
schedule
that.
Mhm.
okay.
Well, that's good, that'll work.
I don't know, Sherry, you okay with that? Yeah, I think it would be, I would like us to do both, just to kind of.
So are these dates firm, final?
These dates are,
Okay. All right. Then we will be posting the dates on the calendar on our website tomorrow, and Regina, you're welcome to do that also. Do you need us to edit one for you, or to send you an edited one? Or? So one more time, any questions on the interview, the process, the day, the validation? You're doing both. Any questions about anything?
you've been so clear. Thank you.
And I want to elaborate on the candidate selection date will bring you draft questions. And the draft questions will be based on the position profile that's developed. You can edit, you can change, you can add, delete, whatever you like, but we'll prepare those for you. Okay, I'll turn it over to my partner.
So just to be clear, we start recruitment tomorrow. So we will get the ads to Access so that they are on their website. Also, once we get them to AXA, they have a career center. They'll also be posted there, and they will be posted earlier than they come out on EdCal. So people that are looking and are going through the AXA Career Center will have access to those that information right away. We'll be doing the email blast as well. And keep in mind that we will also be talking to candidates that we know are out there that might be interested. And so the recruitment starts tomorrow.
Okay, awesome.
This is getting real, guys.
I know it is.
Oh, gee.
Oh, my.
Okay, on number 8, I've already shared with you the information on the contract parameters worksheet that we'll get on the folks that are selected for the interview. And if we'd like to also request a copy, if Georgina can send Blanca and I a copy of your current superintendent's contract. We can take care of that. All right, back to you. That was quick.
And you also, under number 10, you had some questions that you asked previously that had been shared with us, and thank you, Sherry, for getting those to us. You have some questions about how we vet the candidates. I hope we've answered that question.
You
If
did.
not,
I
please
think
let
you
us
might
know.
have answered a lot of these.
Yes.
This was put together before you started
Yes,
talking.
yes, but we want to make sure that we've answered them for you if we
Yes.
haven't previously. So you also asked about out-of-state candidates and expenses. Generally, that's up to the district as to whether they want to pay those expenses for out-of-state candidates.
Okay, thank you.
Generally, other than that, people come because they want to be the superintendent here. And then you asked about differences between California and other state candidates. There are, that's something that you would need to consider as you're doing the interviews. And so that if you find that after the first round, you have a candidate from out of state that has never been in California, those are great follow-up questions for them about, and you actually pointed them out here, the ed code. How familiar are they with the California ed code? Are they a right to work state or not? How different is that? How familiar are they in working with bargaining units? That's a great opportunity to ask those customized questions because you've taken those notes. And then, you talk about the Brown Act. Yes, that's a big one. But I will say also as a retired superintendent, my executive assistant was the expert on the Brown Act and helped keep us all in line, including
She's
myself
really
as a
good.
superintendent.
She's really good.
And so that is very helpful.
We already answered that.
Any other questions that you have that are not on this list?
Now's the time.
No, I don't have any.
We're good? Okay, we were also given a list of qualities and characteristics that you're interested in. So we don't want to go through that process again, correct?
Correct. Is there
Okay.
anything, I gave you guys all a copy of that. Was there anything that is not on there that you would like to add?
Seemed like it hit all the stuff we talked about.
That's, I had written down, but I don't think I wrote every single thing down. Just double check and make sure.
Yeah.
We'll give you a second to review that list. If you want to add something, we'll add it, and if not, we'll go to the next two questions.
Okay, so I think, Sherry, to this, I would like to see, and we have a little thing that we've done, maybe Georgina can just Xerox this little box, because we had gone through. I mean, I'm looking for someone who is also, we didn't put on here like creative problem solver, because those are some things that we saw as, we had already done a description once before, and we thought they were still really important and applicable, if that makes sense. So like I've got it, so I can, I'll give it to Georgina. I'm looking for someone, I'm just touching on a couple of them, if you guys don't mind.
I'm noting them, so.
Okay, we talked about someone who is important with team building. Someone who has high expectations for all, we said was important.
I think we have that.
Do you have that one? You got strong communication. Be transparent. We talked about trustworthy.
Oh, we can add that one.
We talked about courageous too. Remember, these are hard times. You have to be a courageous leader. We were also talking about, I guess, we were talking about someone who had experienced with, oh, you have it here, the variety of educational departments that make the system go, because we thought that was important.
Okay.
Yeah, that's on there.
Yeah, no, I
You have site administrative experience. Are you also interested in teaching experience?
I have that on there too.
Mhm.
It's on there.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Did I read this just for the public so that they know what's on here? What we're looking for, and we came up with these ideas as a team. Strong curricular background, diverse school system background, active in various entities outside of the school district, like AXA and CSBA, et cetera. Strong communication skills, experience with a variety of educational departments, open and transparent, responsive to all, upfront and direct in an honest way, wealth and experience outside our district, having teaching experience, experienced in crisis training, responsibility, and being proactive, willing to work with the changing education climate, open to new ideas and forward thinking, listening and building relationships, being flexible, experience as a site administrator, minimum master's degree, PhD would also be great. Creative, problem solver, courageous leader, team builder, trustworthy. So these are the items that we came up with today and last time we all got together. That's it.
Okay.
And I think the last thing that we said was that someone who is strategically minded as a leader, and that's going to help build on our district, because this is not we don't have a district in crisis. We have a district, if you can get past COVID, and
Yes.
we were a strong district. We are a good district. We are a great district. And we want someone that can build on that and takes us to the next level.
Okay.
It doesn't need to be redone and hashed out.
Right.
And I think that's important, because I think a lot of times we talk about, you got a district in crisis and now you need to put us together. That, aside from COVID, that's not our story.
Right.
So
That's
that
a
was
really
some-
good point. That's a really good
I
point.
just want to bounce off what Diane said. That is a really good point. This is not a district that needs to be micromanaged. Trust in staff in all areas is, I think, a critical piece in Benicia Unified. And I think the being a strategic leader is also very important, because we're going to have the next big thing is going to be the vaccinations. And we do need a leader who's going to stand up and say, it's the law. Your kids have been vaccinated for this. It's somebody who is brave, who is courageous, and who is clear with the parent community that we don't, the board does not make these laws. The whole world shut down during COVID. Lots of the world is still wearing masks. But we are subject to the state of California, to the mandates, to the laws, and to the ed code.
Thank you.
Correct.
And what you said, Diane, about the district, that it's a great district, it doesn't need to be, it's not in crisis, that is great for us for recruitment.
Yes.
Because as we're talking to candidates, they're going to ask us,
Mhm.
what's going on over there, and for us to be able to honestly say that is very attractive to people, that I don't have to go somewhere and clean up and
Yeah.
spend years of my career cleaning
Right.
something up or getting things in order.
We're
I
not a
can go
problem
from
child,
what,
yeah.
as you said, what has already been developed or built, I can go from that. So that's a real plus.
And we get, I understand every leader that comes in is going to put his or her personal mark on it, and that's expected and that's normal. But you got a good ground to work with is basically what I want them to know. I think we're real solid. I think Charles put us in a really good place. He did that and brought a lot of it together. So,
All of you together, though.
we've all done that. We've had that happen. So I think we're in a positive space now. So
Which actually starts the strengths.
at least that's my opinion.
And I wanted to correct one thing on there. I initially had said minimum master's degree or PhD. PhD isn't the right term. It's D, yeah,
Oh, just doctorate,
doctorate.
Or you could just say.
because it could be either.
Either. Typically in this role, it's EDD. Sometimes you
Right.
PhD, not often.
Thank you.
Okay, and the first question they usually ask us is, how's the board? And we just say, well, look at
We're
him on video,
great.
yay.
We're great, we all get along. Tell
Okay.
them we're challenging.
Okay, so the next, we have two more questions for you.
Okay, okay.
And these are the same questions we'll ask the stakeholder groups. What are you most proud of? You've already begun to talk about we're in a good place. Okay, so we have that. What other things are you very proud of within the district? Whether it's the community, the parents, the staff, the facilities, what are you proud of? The programs, what can we use to recruit people?
Well, want me to go first? Okay, so I've been here a long time. I've been here, this is 8 years, oh my God. I think one of the things that I really looked with my team to do when we first came on the board is making sure that there was access for students to be able to be successful and not necessarily just have one path to college and the rest of you just kind of fall off. So over the past years, even before the state started acknowledging the CTE classes, we were really pushing for those. So it makes me feel that I've been very successful, is that we now have an amazing program. The other thing that I think we bring to the table now, and it took us a while to get there, I think is liberty. I think liberty is no longer looked at as the bad kids. I remember when I taught here, and that's a gazillion years ago now, the view of liberty was, oh, those are bad kids and you don't want to go near there, you don't want to go down there, that's the last place you want to go. It's an amazing school, and our kids are getting incredible experiences there, and the community respects them and invites them into their workplaces now, and that wasn't happening. So program-wise for kids, I feel really good about some of the things that we have done. And a lot of that energy I think that we've been spending on kids. And I even think since you guys have come on board, I mean, we've kept those energies going. But it's been incredible, I think, for children.
Fantastic.
I so agree with you there because, and one of the things that we have here is willing to work with changing education climate. And that's exactly what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
We took a continuation in high school and turned it into this wonderful, highly educated place for kids to be. It was fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And they won an award, and I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, they did get an award.
They did, and I can't remember what it was. Dr. Young, what was it?
It was,
Somebody?
I don't know the exact title, but it was a special recognition.
It was a special,
Turned
yes.
in the application with the state level, it's a big deal. So,
Right.
yeah.
It was
Oh, it's a model.
model.
Yes.
Model
Model
continuation.
school.
That's right.
That's right.
Okay,
Yes.
model continue.
So-
Good.
And also, I want to say what we're proud of too is our staff. From classified to the district
Mhm.
office to our teachers. I mean, darn it, we have great staff
Mhm.
that are always willing to work beyond what anybody can think they could handle, and they are handling it.
Loyal,
So
committed staff. Good.
we have a good staff.
Mhm. Well,
Good.
those programs wouldn't have happened
Sure,
without a great staff. I mean,
Absolutely.
That's kind of,
Right.
I think
They
one
go
of the
hand in
most
hand.
important aspects of our educational community here is the emotional and intellectual investment of the teachers, of our classified staff, and of our parents. We have an amazing parent support
Mhm.
in this
Parent support,
district, and
great.
it's huge. So so there's a huge emotional and intellectual investment in Benicia Unified,
Mhm.
which, how lucky are we to have these kinds of teachers, these parents, this staff.
And the city too, and
Mhm.
like members of the community that don't have
Yes.
kids in the district.
Oh, you're right. Excuse me
Our
for
community.
missing that one.
Right.
It's okay.
Well, you've got organizations in town that are doing all kinds of things to figure out how to support the schools. I mean, it's like, I think that's the good news of a small community, and it also can be the bad news of a small community. You get lots of hands in the pot, but I think for the most part, we've been very fortunate, you know.
And I think we continue to be fortunate
Mhm.
in the staff that wants to come in and be part of Benicia
Right.
Okay.
and the
fantastic.
parents of the community.
So then we move into the other area. Are there any, what are the challenges facing the school district? We want to make sure the candidates know what the challenges are so they know what they're getting into.
Updated laws and mandates that we've had to deal with, those have been extremely challenging.
That's for everybody though. I mean, what
Right,
are
Right,
any
so you want something specific to BUSD.
specific to Benicia? Your finances are in order,
Yep.
facilities are good,
Yep.
Well, we're in the middle of a bond.
middle of a bond, okay.
We've got about almost 2/3 of it spent now. We had a 49 point something $1 million bond that was given to us by the taxpayers.
Okay.
So we're still in progress, so that still is happening. In fact, I had a great question the other night. I got stopped in a grocery store, and somebody wanted to know what we've done with all the bond money.
Oh, that's all over social media.
It's all over. So, you know what? But it was a really good question because there's so much that's happened that is internal. As I said to them, a lot of it hasn't been sexy spending because that you see.
Right.
You know, we've had to do wiring, we've had to do alarms, we've had to do internal wiring for all the computers that all of a sudden, when we were closing down, we needed 4,600
apps.
computers and not 100 computers on a site. So a lot of that happened in that regard. So I
So
think,
maybe more transparency as to where the COVID monies have gone and.
and you know, people ask those questions. I think that's
Yeah.
good. And I think probably one of our biggest challenges, and I know we've talked about it tons of times, is even though, I mean, Charles is a great communicator and he puts out letters weekly, and we still have people that want to know what we're doing. You know, and they don't want to go to the website, and they don't want to go look here, and they don't want to go look there. So if someone has the magic pill
For communication.
for communication, it's like, hey, because they still say we're doing things and they have no clue what we're doing. So it's like,
We talk about it and it's
yeah,
You know, when some of us went and visited schools, and I think one of the biggest things that came up was special ed, communication, compliance, et cetera, et cetera. So I would think that that's something that, you know, it's a big deal to be out of compliance for those kids. So I don't know what those numbers are, but we did hear over and over again at every school that's a problem. Also, just the timing in which to get things done. Not enough staff in special ed. I don't know. What did you think, Sherry?
I think it's an issue that needs to be addressed. And so somebody that maybe is really familiar of that in that area or scope of education would be helpful. But that is an area that should be addressed.
Okay, then we would probably then be wise to add a question in there in the interview process about special education, correct?
Sure.
And their knowledge or background or
Yeah.
experience. Okay. That helps us a lot. Any other major challenges?
We are really a lucky school district. It's really, I mean,
You don't have to
things-
create any if they're
Yeah,
not out there. So
no.
don't worry about
We're
that.
really
There's enough
fortunate.
out there.
Things will creep up. I mean, things will happen as they always will.
Mm-hmm.
But immediately, there's really not a lot of negative stuff to say that we want to fix. that we think it could be a problem for somebody walking in our door and taking over this position.
It's wonderful because it really is such a great recruitment tool for us.
Yeah.
You have a great reputation and the attributes that we listed in our proposal, outstanding. So let me just kind of summarize where we are before we go into closed session. We've gone through timeline, protocols, communication, the interview. Is there anything that you have any questions about before we bring this portion to a close? Wide open right now. Any
Team?
questions?
Anybody? No? I think we are all feeling very comfortable and confident here. So I think you've explained everything in detail, and I know we all appreciate that. So thank you so much for the work that you put in already. And let's hit the road tomorrow morning running.
Yep, be exciting to see.
Okay, so then you can adjourn the meeting and go into closed session with your protocols there.
Yeah.
And it would
Okay.
just be the board members and Blanca and I.
Are there any public comments on our open or on our closed session item?
Or not.
There are not. So I am going to, at this time, adjourn our open session. It is 6:30, and we're going to move into closed session.